to the history, the foundings, the essence, and the entire meaning of the country, as is this Trump and Trumpist movement that has taken over lock, stock, and barrel the Republican Party, which is no longer dedicated to American democracy. It is dedicated to Trump and Trumpism and to his family, to defense of his indecencies, his autocratic manner, his corruptions, and apologists for the profound damage he has done.
You know, Tim Miller, one of the most not important, but interesting things is where the Fishers were. And I have no sympathy for people who jumped on the Trump train and then were sad to see it crash. But to see John Bolton and Bill Barr and Liz Cheney on the other side of what Steve Schmidt just described, the three of them, all right-wing conservatives, and I think I've gone through this before. I mean, John Bolton and Rick Grenell agree on all matters of foreign policy, but they're on the two sides of the fact and fiction divide around the result of the election. Bill Barr and Matt Schlapp, I'm sure, have the same judicial philosophy. They're on two irreconcilable sides of the fact fiction election result debate. Liz Cheney, who's as conservative as any House Republican elected, serving right now, is on the other side of this fact fiction debate. It can never again be reconnected. I mean, the Republicans who have acknowledged the truth, they can't go back into normal polite society because none of them raised their hand when Trump was caging children or, smearing and obstructing a federal investigation into whether his campaign colluded with Russia. But neither can they be at home in the fictional world of Donald Trump, can they?
Well, I think you're seeing that clearly. I don't know that Liz Cheney and John Bolton are seeing that clearly. I think good for them for saying and doing the right thing. I think they feel comfortable in where they are in their careers, that they can do this. I think that's a big reason why they're doing it, not to take anything away from them. I also think they're a little deluded about what the future of the Republican Party looks like, and they do believe they'll be able to reattach to it. And frankly, even though I don't think I'll be a part of it, I hope so. I hope that there are some people who live in the realm of reality and who believe in basic democratic values and norms who do fight within the Republican Party. That's needed. It's not as Steve just laid out. It is a problem when one of the two major parties in the country have completely thrown in with autocratic values. And I just want to talk about this lawsuit that just came up in the last hour. 17 states, Nicole, 17 Republican attorney generals have signed a brief calling for the cancellation of the legal votes of people in Pennsylvania and Wisconsin and Georgia and Arizona. We've talked a lot about voter suppression and the problems with that. And I don't want to minimize that at all. It is a very serious problem. But what these guys are talking about is far past voter suppression. It's vote cancellation. It's taking people who were told how to participate in a free and fair election, who followed the rules, who cast the ballot for the person that they chose, and now these 17 attorney generals and Ted Cruz and the president of the United States want to take their vote away from them. They want to cancel that vote. I mean, that is literally Turkey and Belarus. That is anti-democratic. And you can fight before an election over, voter ID laws and voter suppression, and there are reasonable people on both sides of those debates, though many Republicans have acted unreasonably. But vote cancellation, this is unprecedented, and it's the President of the United States, Ted Cruz, and 17 Republican attorney generals that are pushing for it. To your point, how do you come back from that? How can you realign once you've supported something that grotesque?
And Jim Palmieri, the president-elect's position on the Republicans in the Senate is that he hopes to be able to govern in a bipartisan manner. I guess my question for you is how does one go about doing that? Do you focus on the six who've acknowledged the results of the election?
I think you focus on the six that acknowledge the results of the election, and you focus on the percentage of the Republican Party. Vast majority of them have said that they thought that the election results are not credible. But some part of the party believes that Joe Biden was elected president. I think you start there. And I think that you try to embed in everything you do a semblance of bipartisanship, a semblance of reality, right? So like in doing the vaccines, find people who are willing to take the vaccines first. I know that George Bush has said he would, Bill Clinton said he will, Barack Obama. Other people that can appeal to the supporters of President Trump, that their involvement in this process will be meaningful to them. If you're trying to do infrastructure, do it in a way that is reaching out to different parts of the country to try to get some buy-in there. I think even like without being partisan, you can find ways to embed in everything that Biden does to be much more open, to be transparent, and to be reaching out to the parts of the country that didn't vote for him. You know, one leader did a lot of damage to just, you know, the credibility of facts and putting people in silos. It's not just on Biden, it's on all of us. But I think Biden can embed in everything he does, from how he inaugurates, how he does the inaugural, to how he pursues policy, how he does the vaccine, can be much more inclusive. And I think that, you know, if I were working for him, that's what I would be thinking about. How can you start to build back bridges to people who have different views than you, and sometimes even, you know, a different set of facts? And, you know, he has tools every day he does to do that.
And I think to your point, Jen, Steve, you've said that President-elect Biden should go straight to the public to build public support and use that as pressure on elected Republicans. But, you know, Tim spent a week watching Newsmax and OWN and wherever else the Trump folks went when Trump told them to stop watching Fox. I mean, are they still susceptible to pressure, or are we sort of a few train stops past that?
No, we're past it. Look, again, we're in a fight now between an autocratic movement and a democratic movement. And the only way to win a fight is either through submission or through exhaustion. And here's the deal. And this is what I would say to the people that Tim described as deluded. They are in a party that has let out of the underworld a mixture of conspiracy theorists, white nationalists, white supremacists, militia groups, and all of those people are part of their Trump coalition. Right? They are in the mainstream of the Trump coalition. Groups like the Lincoln Project, our view is very simple. There is no compromise with these people. They must be driven back into the underworld of American politics. They have no place at the table. And that any political party that wishes to associate with them has to become so toxic that they have no chance of winning elections. And it's going to be the work of many elections. But this odious cast of characters has to be brought to electoral submission over these next years. At the same time, the side that believes in democracy cannot be brought to exhaustion, cannot be worn out in this fight. Everybody who's on the side of democracy, who believes in elections, from AOC to the Lincoln Project, everybody in between, Republican voters, the group that Tim, that I'm tripping over right now, and I apologize, but all of us, right? If we don't hold together, right? If we don't stay together on the fundamental question, we can lose the country to an autocratic party in the next presidential election. This is all out in the open right now. You can't put this back in the box, what happened this month. You know exactly who is faithless to their constitutional oaths. And it's not a big stretch to say this. If you won't acknowledge the result of this election, if you're pretending that Donald Trump had the election stolen from him, on no planet are you faithful, Senator, member of Congress, Mr. Mayor, Mr. State Legislature, are you faithful to your oath? You've spoiled it. You've wrecked it. You have desecrated it. And this is why this is such a tragic error, because we've never seen such cowardness and such faithlessness towards the American experiment, towards the American Republic, as we do in this hour right now.
And Jim Palmieri, I mean, just to end on what's happening right now, it's Republicans who are being targeted by this movement that Steve describes. It's Republican election officials in Georgia who are standing up and saying, quote, someone's going to get shot. it's Republicans who helped screw, I've said this before, the arms and legs onto Frankenstein, and now they're aghast that he's a monster. I mean, what does a president-elect Biden do about the concerns from Republican elected officials that this could lead to violence very easily and very quickly?
I think it has to be in solidarity with them. And it's not surprising that when you see the repercussions really take hold in the Republican Party, that it's happening at the local level, right? That it's happening with county officials, mayors, governors. They're the ones that have to deal with reality in a way that you were sort of shielded from that in Congress. And I think that you do start there with those Republican officials that, you know, just are willing to deal in reality and be faithful to the democracy. And, you know, Biden has just so much on his shoulders. It's going to be very hard 4 years, but find issues that can be apolitical. Certainly the vaccine has not been to date, but I think that alone, if you do that program right, not only is it, you know, the health of the country depend upon it, the economy depend upon it, but that alone could go a long way to restoring credibility, people believing in government, its ability to do big things, and its ability to be faithful to the health and safety of the American people. So you can imagine how over the course of the next 4 years, Biden will have a lot of those opportunities, and, you know, either will have some support enough from the Republican side, or he won't. But I feel hopeful about that. Not from vast majority of Congress, but the enough supporters of President Trump to keep this together for Biden over the course of the next 4 years.
We will end on your optimism and your hope. Jen Palmieri and Steve Schmidt, thank you both for starting us off. Tim is sticking around. When we come back, it's the Western Front.
Bring all people together in a spirit of love and unity.
In the war against truth, a Republican civil war has broken out in Arizona in the wake of Donald Trump's loss in that state. We'll talk to a reporter there as Republicans increasingly turn on one another. Plus, now that Joe Biden's win in Georgia is official for a third time, officials there...
The answer is love. The answer is compassion. The answer is concern for one another. The answer is combating the Southern strategy and bringing all people together, one race to human race. It can be done. It can be done. It's been done in the past in America, before they divided the poor whites from the poor blacks in the 19th century. It can be done again.
Are trying to make it harder for people to vote ahead of the all-important runoff elections that could determine control of the Senate. And as President-elect Biden vows to take on the virus with science, how will he confront scenes like this, an angry mob protesting the wearing of masks? Deadline White House...
Let me say this, that God supports science, okay? The Lord Jesus supports science. They use science to create the entire world, the entire universe. It's all science, okay? It's all science. Thank you for being on my YouTube page. Thank you.
Continues after a quick break. Don't go anywhere.